Yo, we're back. Still unscripted, still just talking about whatever. But I'm back on the Overwatch grind. I was able to play Overwatch with some friends today, and that was a good time. It's been a while since I've been able to game or just like have fun with anything, and it's something that I've become more grateful for since it used to feel like the norm, It's the same way you play sports or you eat a certain meal for breakfast every day. That was just a part of my routine. And now it feels like something which I have to make time for, something which is very intentional, something which isn't just a pastime. Like it really is like people call hobbies things that people go out of their way for in order to pick up and enjoy, and gaming has become a hobby for me instead of just a way to spend time and connect with my friends when we're not allowed to like see each other all the time. So it's become something that I've appreciated because it's become scarce in my life. And historically, humans have really struggled with being able to process that things are temporary or appreciating things while they are there. And while that's really good like motivational advice for a lot of people where you think, "Oh, I just want to enjoy this thing while I have it." And like it's as simple as that. Or I'm like, I take this thing for granted because it's routine. I'm getting diminished marginal returns on my dopamine. I don't care as much, and we only really process things at the beginning and the end the most. I don't know if you've ever heard that presentation tip, but if you like feel nervous during a presentation, put it in the middle so that people don't remember it as distinctly. But besides all the altruism, nihilism, or like the nothing really matters, or like people are gonna die, everything is finite type thing, I think something which I've struggled to process recently is that everything is temporary. You know, you start to see things. I don't want to say this because you're in your 20s, but you start to see things as an investment, right? I have to put my time here. I have to put my energy here. Time starts to feel like a scarce resource. The amount of time that you have with certain people starts to feel like a scarce resource. The amount of time that you put into anything starts to feel like a scarce resource. And the I feel like the main issue with the information age and also with having technology is that we're constantly online and that there's always this pressure to be doing something, right? Because you always feel like that you can't do something, and it's true. It's not even like I feel. It's like you can always be doing something, and in order to achieve your goals, a lot of people burn out. A lot of people work really hard. A lot of people put a lot of minutes in, you know. And time that you're not doing that thing that you want to do is time that somebody else like probably is. And that's true. And it gets you back to that quote of, you know, you're good at a lot of things, or average at all, master of none. And I start to really wonder if that's really something significant, because it's awesome. I can confidently say that it feels great to be really good at something, to be better than everybody else around you at something, to have this thing that people know you for, to have that aura, to have that confidence that you are going to beat people at this one thing. I love competition. I think it makes us better people. But at least when it comes to life fulfillment, these people who win competitions, who do their prime, like they still have lives to live after, you know? And of course, these athletes are going to like live their glory days, and the connections and the people they made and the people they beat are always going to be a part of their history. And those times, those people make that life achievement. Like nobody cares if you're the best at this super niche thing. If you're world number one at a speedrun that's never been attempted before, right? Like it's the competition, it's the amount of people, it's the glory, it's the amount of people that put effort into it, that care about it, that make it valuable, right? And like Pokemon don't just like get value from nothing. Like they have to have a lot of people backing that value, right? You can't just spawn money from nothing, even though money is kind of spawned off of nothing if you think about it. But I'm getting a little bit tangenty, a little off track. I've been trying to limit the size of my videos so I stay on topic, but the point of that is there's no like solid reason, right? There's no one thing that you can just do that you're for sure is going to give you life fulfillment. And that's another issue where you can only understand your life in reverse. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I should have studied more, and you don't feel that till like the day of the test. Or maybe you know better, but like you've been able to get away with it, so you don't actually do better until somebody puts that pressure onto you, or something like your life puts that pressure on you. And that's life context to say that we can only understand the life in reverse or in retrospect, right? The post-nut clarity, or the hindsight's 2020. Like, that's just a very human thing to try to iterate and then to adjust. But you don't always think about that with, your family or the amount of time you have on this earth. Because even though we, can't control succeeding every single time is a finite resource. Like, your time to be a good like college prospect, for example, or the amount of time that you can spend in college and still be like a good job candidate before people start looking at your age a certain way. Like, all of these opportunities are finite. Like, you really only get one shot at living in every single moment, and you have to choose how you spend that time. And it's getting back to my point about like how these things are investments, because when I'm choosing to like invest in my career and try to develop as an individual, that's time that's like taken away from my family. That's time away from the people that I care about. Like, every time you say like you don't want to go out, or every time that you do go out, that's time away from the studying. And that's why people always say that life is a balance, but no one teaches you how to navigate that balance, because you all have your own success metrics. But that's all of this just fluff compared to what like I've actually been struggling with. And it's that idea that since everything is finite, you are never guaranteed time with these people, right? I'm like, I'm in this weird phase of my life right now where I'm losing a lot of friends. And I talked about it previously, but I took the time with my friends, the happiness that I experienced with them, the exact feeling that I was going to have with those individuals for granted. And you always do, right? It's a terrible feeling to feel like you are always on the ropes, that your entire life is a test, that you're always worried about saying the right answer. That's one of the reasons why I stopped being friends with a certain group of people, because my natural wasn't the right answer for them. And that really sucked, feeling like every single time I was trying to speak, I was trying to hit a quick time event, trying to make sure that I add to the conversation. Because saying nothing, people get mad at you, like, oh, why are you so quiet? And then saying something and saying the wrong thing, something that was too out of pocket for them or outside of their comfort zone or in bad taste in that particular moment, means that I just take the L in that moment, that they look bad, that they look down on me in that moment. And that sucks, to feel like your life is a test. And you're probably sitting here looking at the screen like, oh, that's the case for all people. So what makes you think that like you should just become a better person instead of just always thinking that you're right and be with different people? No, like, this is just my natural. This is who I am. I was raised this way to an extent. And I was raised around people that taught me that I was worth love and that I was worth being accepted. And I want to find more people like that. I don't want to change who I am, because I like who I am around my family. I like who I am as a person. I like the values that I have, and I like the road that I'm on. And even though I'm not proud of my development, like, I like these things about myself. But it still hurts to feel like you are not guaranteed time with your people. Right? It still hurts to feel like you're not chosen. And coming to accept that, yes, of course, it's a two-way street, but that your time with these people is temporary, and you may not be able to choose how much time you get with these people, kind of sucks. And I don't mean that in just the way that like, oh, we're mortal and that people can just suddenly die. No, I mean that in like sometimes you just lose friends. Your interests change, you change, your context changes, and you no longer have something that is like keeping you together. And your time with that person, you suddenly realize it's like finite, and that sucks. It's the same thing with like my family. I like spending time with my family. And you start to see them age a little bit, and it starts to dawn on you that your time with these people is temporary. But in terms of self-reflection, the hard part is wondering if you actually are a good person. And if you're somebody that's worth loving, if you're somebody that's worth accepting, or if you feel like you need to change. Of course you need to change. You're always growing, you're always developing. But you fundamentally as a person and your values, they just don't align with certain people, which is unfortunate. I'm like, I don't want to be going out when I feel like I should be studying. I want to be able to study with people and enjoy it. I want to be able to speak my mind and feel comfortable speaking my mind. Like, of course I want people to challenge me. I don't want people to just shut down. And that sucks for me, because some people just do. Some people aren't ready to talk about those things. Some people just don't want to talk about those things. Like, they don't want the escape friend. They want the happy, go fun friend. They don't want to have that conversation like every time. They don't want to dive into their own psyche. They don't want to dive into the politics. And I'm like, yeah, that's completely fair. It gets to a point for me where I'm like, dang, I don't even want to look at my phone. It's really sad. And that's fine. And it sucks when you just have people that don't match your energy. And you shouldn't be unconditionally accepted. That's another thing that I've had to grow to accept, that to have unlimited tolerance is to have no tolerance at all. I'm like, if my kid is running around the grocery store screaming, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, they're a kid. Like, no, they're still disrupting people's lives. They need to grow up. We need to set them straight. And that's an amount of change that I was willing to accept. But I'm an adult now. And I'm still getting backlash for the things that I do and the things that I say and the person that I am. But in terms of like traditional success criteria, in terms of the metrics, like I'm doing fine. I appeal to traditional power. I appeal to institutional power. I appeal to this masculine idea, right, of like decent fitness, doing good in school, the good grades, the leadership, the giving back to your community, and I'm still getting cooked. Right? And when you appeal to all these things in which you thought would just give you this value to other people and they just don't care about it, like that kind of sucks. And of course I wasn't doing it to get more friends. But I definitely thought that if I put myself out there and I met a lot more people, that I would end up with more friends, and I ended up feeling more lonely. And then I wanted to invest into the friends that I had. And then when I invested into those friends, I started to realize that I changed too. And that I wasn't the best fit for those friends anymore. I served my time with them. I think a really good example of this is I was somebody, I think I've talked about this before, but who grew up with the pressure to succeed. And I really believed in this pathway that other people set up for me, and I still do. I'm still planning to finish college. I'm still appealing to research, to academics, in a very classical academia sense. That I do these things, I become a better person, I seek for the job, the internship, whatever, and life as well. You get the job out of college, etc. Like I already found out that you go to college, you aren't just guaranteed a job. Now that myth first sucked, and then I found out too that the GPA doesn't matter as much. That sucked. I found out if I didn't do too good enough in my classes that it didn't count to my major. That also sucked. But now you have this information and you're taking a step towards your goal. You're told that you're doing the right things. I'm in this nice realm, and now I'm stuck back in the friend situation where I feel like I can't hold down a friendship. And when I lost, recently, I mean most, I'm talking like 90% of my friends, to a mix of graduation, to people just genuinely not liking me as a person, to people feeling like I was just pressure and they want to have fun. All of these different factors, I start to wonder if I'm a good person, or if I'm a likable person, or if I'm a person worth accepting or loving. And I come home and I got absolutely cooked. I got roasted again. I wasn't doing good enough in my academics. I wasn't doing good enough in my health. I was a person that treated other people poorly. I have poor communication skills. Like I was getting roasted by everyone in my family, my friends. And this is a wake-up call. I'm like, how did I go through this whole year and I thought that I was making good friendships and making bonds with people, only for it to come crashing down at the moment? Like that just made me feel like everyone is just tolerating me, because they knew that they had to deal with me for a certain amount of time, and then when the semester came to an end, they finally felt comfortable to cut ties. And that's a crummy feeling, right? One where people felt like they couldn't just tell you like, oh, I don't like you, or they did feel comfortable enough to open up to me, but clearly there was something missing there. And it also makes me feel like I'm a threat to people. You know, there's these people in my circles, so to speak, that they don't do anything like legally wrong, but they just don't pass the vibe check. Like maybe they don't get the reference. There's a language barrier. They struggle to speak the same language. Like there's some friction, and enough friction, or enough people are like, that's weird. And that's a really scary thing to me, where enough people can just like hype train, oh, this person's a weirdo. And then it gets to a point where like you don't even want to test the waters because you don't want to think for yourself. I'm like, why would I take that risk? The risk is too high. And it might just be a whole lot of nothing. And that might be starting to happen to me. I don't really know. But I look at this and I get a little concerned for myself. You know, I get a little worried that maybe I'm just not a person for people, so to speak. Maybe I'm somebody who wasn't meant to make genuine connections. Maybe I was somebody who was only meant to be needed. You know, I make this pitch of I was always there for the deliverables. I'm really good at providing for people. I'm really good at having a shoulder to lean on. I'm very good at being reliable, but I'm not good at connecting with people. I'm not good at being a friend. That's my worry. I look at people, I put pressure on people. I need people who are driven in the same way that I am driven. I need people who like the same things that I do in terms of the academics, in terms of how they drive themselves, in terms of coming to similar privilege so we can afford similar habits and have similar affordances so that we have aligned values. And I didn't find that with the majority of people that I met. And I know that I am okay with people who come from different backgrounds from me, because even the people from the same background as me are really different. I feel very different from my siblings, you know? And we came from a very similar background. So I say all of this to mean that I don't feel like I'm somebody who is incompatible with people, but it has been really weird on me to think that the time that people have is temporary is not only limited by vitality, it's also limited by your choice, by your will. And it kind of sucks to feel like people aren't choosing you, because I choose my family, I choose my friends, I go out of my way, I'm driving people, I'm showing up, I'm finding places for us to eat, you know, I'll always suggest first, right? Let people talk. And then we choose, we vote on a place together. I'm down for anything. I'm always up to hang out. I'm like, I do these things to make myself available and accessible, and to make it really clear that I'm going to choose people, and that I'm giving them the space to fail, and that I really tried hard to not put pressure on people. I didn't force myself into mentorship or a teaching position, even if I am a mentor or a teacher. Like, I let people be people and do things that are quote unquote objectively bad for them and their health and their personal growth, but it's helping them get by in the moment. Like, I felt like I had a lot of tolerance. And you know what? I still got that I was a terrible person. I still got that I wasn't the right person for them. That I didn't align with their goals and their values. And as much as I'm like, I have this own way that I want to approach my life and I'm going to do it, and you have that way too, it still sucks to not feel accepted and chosen. It still sucks to hear from a friend that I actually just made them feel terrible about themselves and that they don't want to be friends with me anymore. And that's a metric of not only my own success, but me trying to support them as an individual. My support got seen as pressure, as stress. I started to seem like another test to them. That sucked too. And I go home and I talk to my family. My family's worried about me cutting all these people off who have made it really clear that they don't like me. They're worried about me burning bridges and about me not making a right state for my future. And it sucks for me because that's outside of my control. Like, sure, I could have pretended that everything was okay. I could have made myself somebody, I don't even believe this is true, but that was more accessible to people. But at what cost? I've already cost a lot of my values, man. I got a terrible set of grades. I technically failed 2 classes. Like, I didn't fail them, right? GPA-wise. But they didn't contribute to my major because my grade was so poor. And there was a lot of times where I went out and I knew I had work due. If I just did the work, I actually would have passed one of those classes. And it doesn't actually waste my time and my money because it was in the plan anyway to give me this affordance, but it still sucks to fail. Put all that effort into a class, all that time into a class, and still fail. Man. And I think about this, journey all in all these people I met, and it starts to really feel like it wasn't worth it. It feels like I compromised a lot of my values, a lot of myself, a lot of the time that I could have spent on my career, a lot of personal development in order to meet people who didn't seem to care about me or who didn't want to build everlasting friendships. And for it, I got like 3. I got 3 really good friendships this year. 2 really great mentors. Unfortunately, I have to say bye to them both. Not like bye forever. And those were products of 4 really good friends. Like, that's a product of me putting myself out there. But all the other fluff that I invested so much time into, man, does that really suck. Man, is that a really crummy feeling. And the worst part is, I'm still in a good spot. Like, graduation-wise, research-wise, job-wise, besides not getting an internship. I did get a pay bump, though. Like, life is still good. And I still feel crummy socially, even though I'm, like, clearly a valuable person. And that's a weird place to be. But I think my big takeaway out of all of this is I was just like, it really put into perspective that, like, these things are temporary. And even though I am living my life with no regrets, like, I go home every weekend to see my family. I made a lot of effort to see the people that I care about. I let the people that I care about know that I cared about them. And despite that, I'm still feeling crummy over the people that left me than feeling really like happy about the people that still choose me. And this was something I told myself, that I wanted to take a step away from a lot of like the super work professional development related things that I was doing in order to spend some more time with the people that I care about. And I plan to do exactly that while still being able to balance my academics. But yeah, I'm done expanding my social circle. I honestly feel like that my horizons in terms of like the non-professional career related stuff is like I kind of over it. Like I tried a social organization, I tried a lot of different clubs, and what worked was not that. I thought I made really good bonds, really good connections to people, and at the end of it all, I just feel very disconnected from a lot of them. I feel like a lot of them just like distinctly don't like me. I know for sure that some of them distinctly don't like me, and it was actually really concerning to me that I found out that a lot of people didn't like me through other people instead of those people confronting me, because that means I failed to make a space to make them feel like that they could talk to me, even if they did at times. I'm somebody who seems difficult to confront, and of course it could be a reflection on them as well. But I'm like, man, I put a lot of effort into this, and it kind of just sucks that it didn't come to fruition. But that's life how life is. I I really wish there was like a really happy takeaway, like a good feeling that I got out of this. But like honestly, just like life goes on. Take all advice with a grain of salt. I'm so incredibly grateful for my family, even if sometimes I think they're wrong. But we'll see how life goes. I think the meaningful and the valuable people in my life are mostly still around. Some of them graduated, and you just do what you can. And even though these things are outside of my control, it still makes me sad, because sometimes you wonder, like, oh, if I did this different, would things have been different? And I'll never know, because I just did it as good as I could, and I tried to be as authentic of a person as I could, and I got absolutely cooked for it. But I don't really want to change, because this type of person has found me a lot of success, and I believe that it still will continue to, and I'll continue to iterate and try to become a better person. And that's what we at. So yeah, that's about it that I have to say at the moment. But man, it's lonely, and that's a really weird thing to say when I have like a few pretty good friends. But it feels lonely because some of the people that you thought would be like your ride or dies just aren't. And like friends that I had like since middle school, I feel like just aren't my friends anymore. And that's just what college does. But man, that hurts. And I really don't try to burn bridges, but as I coming out of the woodworks that apparently I'm not as good of a person as I thought I was. Me helping someone doesn't actually feel like help or support, And sometimes I would get ragged on, and I rag on people back, and now that my ragging comes back to bite me, but I let that stuff go. Maybe that's not a reflection of me. Maybe it is. But man, this kind of sucks. So, oh well. But yeah.